11,471. That's how many coasters are listed on RCDB, the roller coaster database. Throughout 2023, I'll touch on one new bizarre roller coaster each month. Ladies and gentlemen, strap yourselves in, and welcome to Weird RCDB.
Last month, we started this series over in Guilin, China with Pine Forest Flying Mouse. This month, we're going to take things over to Zaragoza in Spain for their coaster, Ramses. Or should I say coasters, because Ramses is actually a pair of dueling coasters, these coasters being located at Parque de Atracciones de Zaragoza. Zaragoza is one of the largest cities in Spain, constituting a population of almost 700,000 and a metro population of nearly 800,000. The history of Zaragoza dates all the way back to Augustan times, with the city being founded sometime between 25 BCE and 11 BCE. The city has some gorgeous old buildings, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and even was the host of the 2008 World's Fair. This is a truly stunning city that has a ton to offer, but for today, we're only interested in this little bit of land on the southern outskirts. Before getting into some of the oddities surrounding Ramses, we should probably tackle the oddity of the coasters themselves. Like Pine Forest, the only stat we have on our CDB is that there's 0 inversions on either track. Even though the layout for this coaster is incredibly basic and it only moves in 2 dimensions, explaining it is kind of odd. The best way to describe it is like a swinging ship. The trains are propelled up one spike, fall back, and go up the other spike. Repeat these a couple times, bring it to a stop, and you have a coaster. I don't just draw the similarity to a swinging ship because of the layout, but also because of the train. You'll notice from looking at it that it looks pretty similar to something like a Pharaoh's Curse swinging ship. Even the restraints are pretty similar. One of the differences with these trains is that riders are seated on both sides of each row, instead of being split right in the middle like how they are on a swinging ship. As the name implies, Ramses is themed around ancient Egypt. The supports are covered by a sandstone brick design, as is a backdrop that sits behind the middle of the coaster. This design also carries over to an arch that surrounds the ride platform, complete with a golden pharaoh's bust. On either side of the spikes, there's a carved stone statue of pharaohs, akin to those outside some tombs in the Valley of Kings, where the real Ramses II was entombed. Now, something that's pretty peculiar about this set of coasters is that they don't actually have a Coasterpedia page. Coasterpedia is another website sort of similar to RCDB, but as the name implies, is organized more encyclopedically. It's closer to a fan wiki than it is RCDB, but just like RCDB, it also has a page for almost every coaster. One of the missing coasters for Coasterpedias is Ramses, I guess. The oddest thing about this is that Coasterpedia has a page for Zaragoza, which even mentions Ramses, but doesn't have a page itself. Yet the other 2 coasters at Zaragoza do have pages, but you know what, we'll get to those coasters later. Going back to RCDB though, we can see Ramses' manufacturer, Safeco. What's interesting is that this is the only coaster made by Safeco. Just like Kangol from the last episode, they also have a convenient nice link to their website right on the RCDB page. What? Okay, so this segment of the script is actually the most recent part that I'm writing. The script was done and I was just doing a final edit when I went here to grab a screen cap of the 404 aerographic for Safeco's page, but I guess Safeco's page is expired. It seems to have expired on the 1st of February this year and is pending renewal, but obviously that hasn't happened. Just as a heads up, I'm writing this part on the 26th. Now, I'm not sure why the related searches are for insurance and marketing, but it looks like even the abandoned Safeco page no longer exists. If only there was a website or service that allows us to go back in time on the internet. Oh, wait a minute! For researching the stuff in this series, the Wayback Machine is invaluable. I know I forgot to do this with Kangol last time, but I went back afterwards and there's only one snapshot from 2008, which was unfortunately not archived properly. Anyways, going back to Safeco, there's archives of this page that date all the way back to 2002. I decided to look into the newest of these snapshots from April 2021, as well as the oldest. Although there are snapshots from 2002, none of them actually have anything to show. They're all just white pages with a site name index. The same thing is true with 2003, but on April 1st, 2004, we finally have an intact snapshot. Although, yeah, it's also not really fully intact. Actually, none of these are. They're all broken in the same way too. It's not until May 2008 that something different appears, and not until December that we get one that's fully intact. What you'll quickly notice though is that this and the one from 2021 are identical. Like, every single aspect is identical. It's odd that they didn't make a single altercation to their website in 13 years, but luckily Safeco has some other sources online we can draw from. Safeco is a noteworthy flat ride manufacturer, especially in Europe. Their YouTube channel Funfair Worldwide has a 29 video long playlist of Safeco rides. For the most part, their ride seems to be part of the European Fair circuit, as well as one in Hong Kong. They don't look like too bad of a manufacturer. I mean, they made a breakdance, so they're already good in my books. Their main style of ride seems to be this kind. There's a few different variations, but they're rides that spin riders around while bouncing them up and down. The Air Max 360 model takes this idea to the extreme, including inverted seats and spinning ones to boot. There's a couple of other odd rides like this Crazy Bowls one and a balloon race looking model. The more I went through the videos in this playlist, the more my desire to visit European fairs continued to grow. If I ever disappear off YouTube for a year again, just assume that I've become a stowaway on some flat ride trailer in Europe. Now that we've discussed the ride and the manufacturer, there's only one more thing I want to touch on before mentioning the park that Ramses resides in. As you see, Zaragoza wasn't actually the original home of Ramses. That distinction belongs to a defunct park once located in Barcelona named Parque de Atracciones de Montjuïc. There, the coasters were named Vikingo. Unlike their later life as Ramses, they didn't have any theming at Montjuïc, and the trains were still a generic design. Vikingo lasted 11 years there until the park's closure in 1998. Aside from Vikingo, Montjuïc also had a Vekoma Boomerang, a Zyklon built by Rob's Bulio's Attractions, and a small kiddie coaster with no manufacturer listed. Something interesting to note about the Zyklon is that the manufacturer has only built 3 coasters, but one of those just so happens to also be at Zaragoza, funnily enough. As for the kiddie coaster, it's a bit odd. RCDB has the name listed as Mini Montana Russa, but it's also not confident about that name. There's a note on its page that's unlike anything I've seen on any other RCDB page. Quote, Mini Montana Russa may not be the correct name for this roller coaster. A picture contains a portion of the signs showing Russa. It is assumed that the name is Montana Russa, or at least ending in that way. The Mini was added here to differentiate it from the larger Montana Russa at the park. Aside from the couple hundred coasters that have no names listed, this is the first one I've seen where even RCDB is unsure what it's called. The name isn't the only thing RCDB is unsure of. Like I mentioned, there's no manufacturer listed, but RCDB does have 3 names listed for who may have built it. Carl Miller, Ben Schiff, or Molina and Sons. RCDB states that all 3 use the same exact track system, so differentiating them is kinda difficult, and something that couldn't be done for this coaster. It's kinda like how the Aerodynamics extended family is easy to confuse sometimes. Montjuïc also had 2 other coasters dating all the way back to the park's opening in 1966, but they both closed during the 70s. Montana Russa was a traveling coaster that dated all the way back to 1909, which seems to only have one image that I could find, coming from a Spanish blog site named Blogger Coaster. The other coaster was Loco Raton, a BA Schiff Wild Mouse. BA Schiff was a very prominent manufacturer in the early 20th century, including coasters built at Dorney, Hershey Park, Kennywood, and even Cedar Point. You know the Wild Mouse that the new one opening this year is a homage to? Yeah, that was a BA Schiff. RCDB also makes note that it was believed that the coaster closed in 1972, but that there's a video of it from 1977 that still has it in the background. Now, I'm not entirely sure about that. The only coaster that we see in the background is this one, but to me, that looks like the Zyklon that was also here, as seen later in the video too. I mean, I did get the whole thing about Pine Forest trains wrong in the last episode, so take everything I bring up with a grain of salt.
I'm literally so stupid. It's right here.
How did we even get here? Right. Okay, Ramses was originally Vikingo, which I was at a Parque de Atracciones de Montjuïc. It was relocated to Zaragoza in 2000 though, and that's where it currently remains. Now that that's all wrapped up, let's go into some more about Parque de Atracciones de Zaragoza now. This park opened 8 years after Montjuïc in 1974 with Moncayo, the previously mentioned Rob's Busso Zyklon. The park didn't add any new coasters until Ramses in 2000, but that was quickly followed by a Zamperla family coaster named Lamina sometime around 2002. This coaster is a Gravity 80 STD model, identical to Coco Cruiser at Hershey Park or Speedy Gonzales at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Outside of just the coasters, Zaragoza actually looks like not too bad of a park either.
Parque de Atracciones de Zaragoza. Revive momentos únicos.
Their opening day this year is March 4th, and tickets are only €24, or just over 25 American. For what the park has, that doesn't seem like too bad of a price, only $10 less than a ticket to Six Flags Great Escape. You wanna know what's something incredible about researching this coaster in this park? There's actual sources to it. This isn't like Pine Forest where they had a total of 8 things on all of the internet. There's actually more sources than I need. And videos too, not even just videos, but POVs. I can't even believe that.
Random roller coaster from RCDB.com. Let's see what we got today. Ramses, all the way in Spain. Okay, let's take a look here.
How does this keep happening? I know I said that one of the goals of this series was to bring light to coasters that are very poorly documented, but Ramses is just too weird for me to pass up. Besides, I got into all those tangents about Montjuic, so I guess that covers the whole single digits results quota for this episode. To sum it all up though, Ramses is an odd dueling coaster pair by Spanish flat ride manufacturer Safeco. The park is located at Parque de Atracciones de Zaragoza, but it was previously at Parque de Atracciones de Montjuic under the name Vikingo. I don't mean for these videos to keep coming out on literally the last possible day that they can. These last 2 months have been really hectic, and I was unable to work on this script for one of the very few weeks I had no obligations due to some sickness. Starting in March though, I'm hoping to get these videos going a lot smoother. I know that they absolutely will for the summer between May and September. Thank you very much for watching, I really appreciate it. You'll want to stick around for next month's episode, it's probably my favorite of the whole series. Until next time though, I'm Atomic Coasters, take care and ride on.